that's the pastor, like, that's the pastor. Like, how is that the pastor?
Meeting pastor was what gave me purpose.
He has changed my life over and over and over again. Pastor is very, very accessible. Pastor is an immeasurable gift from the Lord. You know, when he says he's ever tireless, it's not just a word, but it's our reality, because we have come into such loving arms of a father. In Pastor, we know and we understand what it means to have a shepherd, someone who labors over our lives daily. You know, and I'm really grateful. And I don't just speak for myself, I speak for 1,000 more dead raisers and many more to come, that we will be nothing without him. And we are super, super grateful and thankful to have him in our lives, to have him guide us, and to have him just set the way for us, to have him lead us to Christ over and over again, to have him clear our doubts, be our clarity. You know, thank you so much, Pastor, for everything you are to me and to all of us. Thank you for 1 billion dead raisers. Thank you for our lives. We are grateful, sir. Thank you, sir.
Pastor Vwakpor Efuetanu, the shepherd of our salvation, guiding us out of ignorance and purposelessness, as the lead pastor of Grace Edge Ministries and commander-in-chief of the Dead Raisers tribe, his influence transcends words. In the fabric of our lives, Pastor Efuetanu has woven meaning. Through his teachings, our existence now bears significance, and the path God intends for us is illuminated. His impact is a fervent blaze touching lives, one soul at a time.
So Pastor is one of the most kind-hearted persons that I know. He's very attentive to you, to your needs. Pastor always lends out the hands to you, even when it feels like you don't want to come close to him. He's always the one reaching out over and over again. He's very forgiving, he's very understanding, he's very attentive, he's very loving, he's very spiritual, he's very prophetic. He can tell you things about your life, open you up, and just let God's light shine through. Pastor changes our lives. He has changed my life over and over and over again. I'm so grateful to Pastor. I love him so much. Thank you, Pastor. I first met Pastor in 2018 at the first Warrior Crusade, and I attended the meeting because my friend had invited me. Naturally, I didn't like a lot of things that Pastor was saying because they were against the things that I believed in. So my first impression of Pastor was that I didn't like this person. Everything he said that day, I fought everything in my heart. And to make matters worse, at the end of the meeting, he laid hands on me, which now made me dislike him more.
It was around July 2019 in Blue Meadows restaurant near Basement. So the person that brought me to Dead Raisers told me that there's a place that he learns where he learns what he learns. Then I said, okay, now where? He now gave me the address. So the first time I went, okay, I just saw people praying in tongues. I was praying in tongues. Then when it was now time for Pastor to come up, I saw one young man just walk off. I knew this was the person that was supposed to preach to us, but in my mind I was like, Jesus, this person wants to teach to us? Because from the description I was expecting one advanced man.
The first time I met Pastor was on Basement Field, and I just walked into a Dead Raisers service because some of my friends, I've already seen some of my friends flowing the power of God, and I'm like, okay, let me see where they got all this from. And obviously it was from Dead Raisers, so I went to Basement Field, the meeting they were having before I went home, before the corona started, and I was waiting for the service to actually start, but then they were doing a 1 hour opening prayer and it was just too much. And then somebody now came in, and before you know, I just saw a couple of people moving around, going to meet the person, and I'm like, who is that? Then I'm asking somebody and they're like, that's the pastor. I'm like, that's the pastor, like, that's the pastor. Like, how is that the pastor?
Under his guidance, timid souls have metamorphosed into valiant defenders of Christ and the gospel. Pastor's mantra: teach men to wield the sword until they become skillful and inseparable from the word and the spirit, echoes through the years since the humble beginnings in his one-room apartment in Doctor's Quarters in 2016.
All right. So this is Doctor's Quarters. This is basically where the ministry started. This is basically the places where we started our teaching meetings where we had to go to Pastor's house and stayed all night learning God's word from Pastor. Really enjoyed the time here. It was beautiful because we got to ask questions, and our Bible knowledge got to change. Actually, our Bible knowledge changed in this place. Actually, I would like to take you to see where we had our first Bible study session. Actually, let's go. Just made kerosene spag. I don't know what you call it. This is basically Pastor's first room. I think the occupants is the people staying here right now, and they're not exactly around. So this is where Pastor stayed. I remember I was sitting here to take a picture, which you will probably see right now. Some of us took a picture here. Had our first meeting in this room, one of our first meetings rather. So it was a beautiful experience. We enjoyed our time actually.
2016, we're praying on Basement Field. I, Sat CJ, and Joshua, a friend of ours, Stephanie, a friend of ours also. And then someone we know brought in Pastor Vwakpor, as we were fond of calling him then, to that meeting, and literally I have to be sincere with you. It was something else. Literally, the presence around the place changed. It was as though there was this spiritual force that everyone felt. We all paused for a moment. You know, later in my diary I would write and say it felt like an angel walked in. It was an otherworldly experience, literally. It was tangible, and then I could remember that prayer meeting. Pastor laid hands on us. He prophesied to us, the bulk of the prophecies are things I'm running with right now, experiencing, and having. It was a lot. Literally, that night was a lot, and I could remember Pastor's eyes. It was something else. There was this fire in Pastor's eyes, and that large smile that he wore. It was a beautiful, memorable experience. So yes, that was my first experience with Pastor. After then, we could not let him go. Literally, we're going to his place, for just to learn, and then we started having prayer meetings regularly with Pastor. It was a glory experience, to say the least, literally.
The revolution initiated by Pastor encompasses fervent teachings on salvation and the move of the Spirit. Meetings held in that holy field of fire, you can call it Basement Field. It saw us march, groan, and scream in prayers for hours under the cold and rainy nights. In the face of weather vicissitudes, Pastor transformed these challenges into trainings, demonstrating the power of the man in Christ over natural elements.
And the pastor came in. He used one of my friends for a spiritual practical, which was demonstrating the power of God through me. And it was very, very epic, because all these things always felt strange to me, and it always felt like it was staged. But seeing someone that I knew doing this and flowing in this made me realize that it wasn't. And it was like my most life-changing experience, because that was the first time I experienced the power of God flow through me, because I always thought that stuff never really happened. So it was very, very wonderful.
I remember that year when I first came to church, that was 2019. Somebody who talked to me asked me if I believed that the supernatural was easy for believers, if we could just walk in them easily. I told him no, that I thought we had to grow into them. I felt like we basically had to grow into all of that. So the older you get in God, the more, I don't know why I thought that. So basically how I was brought up. So me thinking about it now and thinking of how I thought then, there's so much difference. Because right now I wouldn't even for a second think that it's difficult for a believer to get to practice spirituals. It's because Pastor is very, very, very devoted to seeing us grow like that. So he has forced it into my head to get to realize that for real, of a truth, every believer can walk in the supernatural. He has made it a reality for me. So from all these years, I've seen a very, very tangible difference in walking in the spirit, walking in spirituals, and walking in all that things that God has for me.
Meeting my pastor, Pastor Vwakpor Efuetanu, has really made me better. I remember before I met him, I was, I would say confused. I would say I was hungry. I wanted something. I wanted to be, I wanted to know God more. But God specifically and specially assigned Pastor to me. And I don't mean to sound selfish, but I would say that Pastor is God's man for me. I'm really so grateful for meeting my pastor. I've grown spiritually. I've grown to be better. Secular activities, both the secular and the spiritual aspect. I've grown to be better, and I really want to say I'm grateful to you, Pastor.
It was Psalms of the Prophet. Yes, a very prophetic meeting, and I'm someone that desires prophetic a lot. So Pastor was showing us how easy it was to prophesy. He even gave words. I remember leader Odosa, then we used to just call her Odosa, was in front of me. Then I think Nosa was beside me. So he gave the first 2 rows prophetic words, and I was on that second row. So Pastor said, like the words where Jesus Christ, my eyes opened to the prophetic. I saw how easy it was, how effortless it was. Then he said we should give our neighbors words. I gave my neighbor, and then since that day, I told myself I must come back and listen to Pastor teach.
Earlier in 2017, I didn't think I could be prophetic. I thought maybe it was for some persons. And I remember that day in service, Pastor taught on the things of the Spirit. And then he told everybody to go out and prophesy. And I was just sitting there. I was actually giving people thumbs up, like, yeah, you guys go and do your thing. And then Pastor looks at me and he says, that's your thing too. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. And then he lays hands on me. And it felt like there was fire coming out of my bowels. There was fire coming out of me, and I usually screamed so much, and I was on the ground for a long time. And when I stood up, someone came and took my hand and said, okay, come and give words to this person. And I was literally prophesying to everybody I saw.
Special gatherings in the Coastodin and Brethren's houses showcase the diversity of our fellowship. Even during the COVID-19 pandemic, the ministry persisted without a break, evolving from Blue Meadows to the University Palace Hotel, before moving to Telex Event Center, our current base. Throughout the years, Pastor has fervently believed in the possibility of a whole and stable believer, excelling in every area, both natural and supernatural.
Pastor is involved in so many things. Literally, Pastor is a husband, all right? Pastor is a CEO of a company, a renewable energy company. Pastor runs Dead Razors, Grace Edge, our church. Now, our church isn't like any normal church. Like, Pastor corresponds with church on a daily basis. Literally, on a daily basis. Morning prayers, drills. Pastor corresponds with individual church members on a daily basis. There are times where you'd hear Pastor, had meetings from like 12 to 6 p.m. And then he's still having elite class meetings that same evening, open prayers, etc. Pastor is planning to start other companies. Pastor runs the elite class, and there are, several cadres in the elite class, and there's just a lot Pastor has his hands in, and yet nothing is suffering.
And even natural, I love how it is that Pastor has helped me become much more serious, taking my life seriously. A lot of things I just felt okay, I was going to come to school to just maybe read my book and just get out of here. But I've seen how a person can be multidimensional. I've seen it in Pastor. I've seen Pastor teach it. I've seen how possible it is for a person to not just, be narrow-minded. My mindset has expanded just because of seeing this person, of seeing somebody become that example.
Pastor is the example of what it means to be astute in every aspect of life. Pastor literally teaches us how to win at every sphere of life, spiritual, natural, in every single thing that we want to do. So with Pastor, there are literally no impossibilities. Pastor has taught me how it is to not see impossible situations in anything at all. With Pastor, you always know that you can find a way to do anything that you set your mind to do.
The Elite Class, a ministry program instilling financial literacy, core values, wisdom for wealth creation and productivity, stands as a testament to his commitment to the holistic well-being of Grace Edge Ministries members. Prayer mountains and life-changing encounters, such as the Homecoming Conference, Hotspot Conferences, Word Conference, and Gospel Seminars, mighty prayers, daily prayers, are all reflections of Pastor's dedication to grounding us in prayers and the Word. Healing meetings and community outreaches, these embody our commitment to dispelling darkness and illuminating the light of Jesus. As we follow Pastor Efuetanu, we recognize the singular life we have to thwart the devil's plans. Committed to the man, the message, and the mandate, we extend our gratitude to our ever rugged, tireless, favored, militant, Jaguda firebrand pastor, an importer and exporter of encounters and manifestations, packaged to us in heaven, delivered to us in Benin City. Eternally grateful, we stand united.